Hello and good morning, students. Today we will be discussing our third lesson for Module 2, which is controlling the flow of your program. Previously, we have dealt with operators and data types, in which in this lesson we will be learning how to manipulate those datas and operators in order for us to create a sensible program in which uh, depending on the input of the user, we will be able to create uh, different branches of how our program will proceed. So we will be continuing with what we have started yesterday. I would like you to open your project yesterday, which is last name underscore if then. So as you might have noticed, there is some semblance of content in what I have created here. So the difference in this compared to yesterday is that I have added some kind of lore into our text. So let me re-execute the code. So you might have seen there's a bit of text, a bit too many, I think. So let's start from the bottom. Yesterday we created a project. Then in the layouts we added two more buttons as well as another text view. The buttons are being bound to the first text, which is a hello world text. You can ignore the placeholder text for now. We don't need to actually remove anything uh, from this text view because the default text here allows us to see the UI element from the design. So we will not remove anything. Rather, we will modify it using the Java code that we have. So here in our onCreate, I have bound the text views and buttons so that we can manipulate them. So this is the outcome text and this is the background text, which provides us the lore or what kind of story we are going for. So as you have noticed, there are two buttons here that we can use for our decisions. Today, we will be learning about what switches are and what if then is. If we go on to the uh, on-click method, you might notice there's something quite different in how on my approach. You might notice, where is the switch? I'm not seeing the switch here. So we will be learning the differences between if then else as well as the switch. So let's start with the if then. If then is the simplest one between the two. So the syntax of an if then can be seen here in our lesson. Should be included here. If we go to the, let's see. So this is the syntax for if then. If we create an if then, it's simple as that. If the condition should be here, then the code should be inside these curly braces. As simple as that. You can use this to create a sort of uh, let's see. We will be creating something like we can use if as it is. Let's say this is the start of your program. If you include an if as a condition, you can create a new path for your program to go on. Now, sir, what if there are multiple branches or decisions in how our program will proceed? Now, you are going to create what we call as else if. So, for example, this is the condition, right? So, usually, it is accompanied by what we call else. In a two condition environment, you usually use the if else as an argument. For example, this is for condition 1, for condition 2. So let's say this is condition 1. So in its, let's say in its curly braces, you are going to put the code here on how on what you think you would function for the for the condition 1. Then else for the condition 2. So now, what if it involves a lot more conditions that we anticipated to? So let's say there is another condition. So we can create another condition by typing else if. It provides us a way of adding more conditions. Let's say this will become our condition 2. If you have any questions, you may type in the chat, okay? Wait, let's see. I can't seem to see that. Okay. Okay, code should be here for condition 2. If we are going to add one more condition, then you may do so here, condition 3. For this, if and else if are for what we call specific conditions. This should be we call specific conditions. While the else condition catches those that don't have specified conditions. What do you mean by unspecified conditions, sir? Let's say we're going to create a program that sorts numbers from 10 every tens. Let's say, what if our let's say we have an int here is equals to 100. So let's say our program is supposed to sort from 1 to 10, then 11 to 20, then 20 to 30, so on and so forth. So let's say we will create the condition here. If x is greater than 1, or let's say if x is greater than or equal to 1, and we will be creating here the logical AND operator, which is two ends. X is greater than, or let's say just greater than, uh, I think I might have the wrong program here. Say if x is greater than or equal to 1, or x is less than or equal to 10. I think this should be the correct one. So our condition here would be catch all numbers from 1 to 10. Now, we will be creating another one for 11 to 20, so on and so forth. If you have any questions, please do type in the chat. Catch all numbers from 11 to 20. And the last one here, x is equals to 21 and 30. Okay. Let's say our program continued on until it reaches 100. Let's just say the program create more conditions until 100. So you have created a pretty robust program with this, right? Except, what if, what if the user type -1? What do you think will be the answer? I would like some input from the students. What do you think will happen if um the answer, if the user answered -1 or any negative integer for that example? Where do you think the condition will be satisfied? Any students? No input from the audience? What do you mean? This is just an example. I'm not saying that you should run this program. Looking from the condition, I'm not saying that you should run this because this is not error. I see. So you meant error. And the answer would be it falls into this. So else catches all other unspecified conditions. So let's say you catch everything from 1 to 100, right? You have caught everything from 1 to 100 in these conditions here. Else tries to catch everything that is not specified. For example, negative integers. You didn't create a condition for negative integers, right? For example, -1 to negative infinity. Or 0. It catches 0 as well. Anything that you didn't create a program or didn't anticipate to, else will try to catch that. Even non-numerical characters. else tries to catch everything that you didn't account for in these unspecified conditions. That is the job of else. Okay? That is the job of else. So, until you created a specific condition for the negative integers, it will be caught by else. For example, here, we will create a condition that will show the user if he type a negative number. Let's say x is less than 1. So it catches both 0 and negative numbers, right? If x is less than 1. So catch all numbers including 0 and negative integers. Because after all, we condition it to catch only any number that is uh less than 1, right? So let's say we display here display that set text, just a sample, it will show up an error. This is just a sample. Let's say you type an illogical number. Let's say you want to show this as an error to your user. So this is how you create an if-else condition. Any questions before we proceed with uh, a much harder if-else condition, which is the nested if-else or if-then? Any questions before we proceed? No questions from the audience. I would like to assume that there is no questions from the audience. So let's move on. Now we will be using nested if then else. So let's say, for example, let's bring up our whiteboard again. Let's say, for example, this is the first if then else condition that we have created. What if it has a branching conditions? Let's say after condition 1, there is another condition here. And it further creates a whole lot more conditions. We call this nested if then. We call this nested if then statement. By the way, before we move on with nested if then statement, sir, how do we create a flowchart for multiple conditions, sir? It only has yes or no for each if then else. It's just simple, you know. First one, let's say this is the first if. If it is yes, then it should proceed as stated. But if it in an uh if there's another else if in the equation, you say in the no, it should be branching, it should be forwarding the user to another one, another decisional, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. So that's how you design the flowchart for multiple decisions. Now, we will sample out the nested if then else. As you might see, um, if else is quite simple. Even the nested if then else, it's quite simple. You can even interchange it with switch, which we will be learning later on. So, I think you might have noticed that there is something different with how the buttons work right now, right? You didn't see the switch. You notice that the switch is missing. So let's bring the previous equation out. So this is just a comparison before we move on to nested if else and. So this was the original uh, equation. We can even remove else from this. Ano, I don't think we need that. So you can easily compare. They work the same, but the syntax or how we code it is different. So for example, in our first condition, this should be the first condition. First condition. Wait. This should be the first condition. First condition. And first condition code starts here. Second condition, then second condition code starts here. Now, if we compare it, this should be the first condition, and below it, first condition code starts here. Second condition and second condition code starts here. Now you can see the similarities and the differences between both the switch statement. This is a switch statement, and this is an if then else statement. So earlier we have discussed about else as some sort of catch-all, right? Uh, unaccounted conditions code starts here. For switch, it is called default. It is called default. Then break. So unaccounted condition. Then just below it is uncounted conditions code starts here. I hope I made this clear for everybody how switch works. Now, let's move on with the nested. Let's move on with the nested if then else. So let's not touch this. Let's not touch this because I think it is related to how our program will work. So we will be creating uh, a sample if then else. Sample if then else or nested if then else. So if, so let's say the condition should be here. Condition. let's say uh we have a program here that asks your age as well as your gender. Let's say string, or let's say character, sex, like that. We also have uh int age. So in its first condition, it first asks whether your age is of legal consent. So let's say age is equal or greater than or equal to 18. Maybe add another condition here. Boolean uh, with parents. Let's say you are with your parents. So then it asks your age, or rather your sex. So if sex is equals to, let's say, M, or of course there's somebody who would try to type that in smaller characters, right? So let's account for him. It means that either if you type the capital letter M or the small letter m. So now you will notice um, we're inside the age. It means that we are creating a branch inside the age. So let's say created a separate one for females. Sex. Then we created a condition, or rather catch all for everything. If less than age is less than 18, less than or equal to 7, yeah, less than or equal to 17. Now, uh, let's try copy pasting this inside. Now we are going to create one more branch for this because typically for minors, they would not be allowed in some establishments. For example, malls. You are not allowed close to malls if you are if you are considered minor nowadays. So let's say we created another one. Boolean with parents is equals to true. Then let's say display set text. Just a sample again. Uh let's say you proceed to the minors section, or boys. Then, else display that set text. Let's say it should display error. You are not allowed because if it catches everything that is not true, it means it is false, right? Now let's do this for the other one as well. Girls. So this else condition should be uh, anything that we haven't accounted for. So now let's go with the ano uh, legal proceed to the legal section with for men. And let's paste this again. Uh, if he doesn't have parents, maybe he'll just sign proceed to signing uh, consent form. Okay. So any questions regarding the conditions that we are creating? So we will run through this condition. First one, it is going to ask for the age. If you are non-minor, or it means you are of legal age, you will be in either of these conditions. If you are a minor, you will fall in these conditions here. So now, let's say you are of age 18 and above. So there would be two choices. It's either a male or a female. Maybe if you are undecided, you will fall here at else. So let's say you are a male student or a male. If you are with your parents, then you can proceed to the legal section. If you are not, then you may sign the consent form. It means to achieve this condition, you either be 18 and above and male. Please do take note of the end. It means that it is true. Everything of this is true. 18 and above and male. Without parents. Without parents. This one should be 18 and above and male with parents. Let's copy this. This should be 17 and below. Now, let's move on here. Are you seeing the pattern now? So this should be 17 and below, and female with parents, and this should be 17 and below and female without parents. Okay, I think I labeled everything out so that you will see how the decision progresses, right? Now let's try to relate this to there is no I think this is a bit difficult to execute in Switch because you are going to deal with a singular uh row. Though one of the advantages of Switch is that it looks organized. Again, I'll bring up Switch. So as you can see, everything is organized. So if we're going to proceed this in Switch form, it should be like this. Eh, let's say case uh the difference between else if and switch is very specific. It is very specific. You cannot create conditions here. Rather, it will create the specified variable in which you are going to use. For example, case 18. Then you need to create case 17, case 16, case so on and so forth. It is very specific and pinpoint in its conditions. And you cannot create conditions similar to this here. For example, in this um condition, no, you will notice that we are using this. It means that what button is clicked at that moment for it to function. So in this condition, if button 1 is clicked, or it will first get the ID of what is being clicked. So if button 1 is being clicked, it is going to start here. Same here. If button 1 is being clicked, then it should start. It means it is very specific. What if both of the buttons are being pressed at the same time? You cannot create this with a switch statement, but rather you can easily create this with an if else statement. For example, you can create the condition by, let's go back, by just copy pasting this and create an end statement here. It means both are being pressed at the same time. You cannot do this with the switch statement because it can only allow specific conditions on its program. Now, with this as a basis, we are going to create, uh, I think I have already stated this, no? As your project, uh, you will be creating your own decision-based um, narrative game. So this is just a sampler, no? I would like you to see. I will just remove this because I don't think we are going to use this anymore. This is just here for uh, showing purposes. So this is just a sample of what you are going to create. You can even design this on your own style. You might even incorporate more than two buttons. It's up to you if you want a whole lot more buttons in your condition. So where is it? Here. So as you can see, right, it changes. So what if we created this as a nested if else? It means that you can change each dialogue every time you click a button. You proceed deeper and deeper into the code. Well, let me just try that out. So again, there is the default text here. It should be on create, ha. If you are going for a default flavor text, it should be on the on create method. On create means it will run that code on runtime or when the program starts. The application opens in your phone. Meanwhile, on click only runs the program when a button is being clicked. That's the difference between on click and on create. So, because this is in onCreate, it means it should display the text on onCreate. Let's say we are going to create a condition, or rather, a nested if then else statement. Let's say you survive instead. Uh, you survive the night. Let's say, what is your next course of action? So you can create your conditions here even without changing the activity. So it can be shown in a single screen. Then, for example, we're going to change the outcome text again. Outcome text, then set text. Let's say decision 1, forage sticks and look for flint to create a fire. Then let's add a line breaker. Maybe break this up like this. Then decision 2, uh, travel or maybe climb a tall tree to scan around and look for landmarks. Say something like that. So we can try to re-add the program again inside the else if condition, or rather here just below. Let's try to remove this. Oh, where did that I see. I might have pasted this in the wrong area. Oh, okay. So now we have created a nested if then else. So we can just delete this else because I don't think we're gonna need this. So now we have created this. So let's say if you it will display in the outcome story background. You managed to create a fire. Then if he types or a story background, let's say you found a village from a distant view close to the mountains. say, what is your next course of action? Let's just add this line here. So let's try adding more and more branches to this. Let's say you forage for food. Okay. Hunt for food, or rather hunt wildlife to cook as food. And here should uh, forage fruits and crops, cook as food. So in this decision, it should be first button, decision 2, then decision 1, then, okay, let's see. So we need to press decision 2. I found a village. Then, okay, so you can create your own branches with this. So try to create more and more branches in order to create a new story for your program. So you can proceed everything just as planned. You can also, by the way, with, let's say let's remove this. Where does this end? Say let's remove everything from this. Okay. Let's say we are going to use a switch in here. Maybe pasting it. You can even use switch inside if then else. For example, let's remove default because I don't think we are going to need this. So inside an if then else, you can even use switch to change up the condition. I know this is a bit confusing, no? But if you have any questions, please do ask. I think this concludes our lesson for today. So I would like you to ask up any questions that you have regarding our lesson today.